Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
All right, everybody, it's the Working Fans Podcast. We had a little bit to drink, and we are talking Comedycast today. And since we got all 4 of us here, we got AJ Strangebrew, producer Joe, Chevy, myself, the man called Dave. We're going to talk about what kind of got us into comedy and some of the things that, that kind of hooked us.
Dave, tell the people we didn't just get drunk. We were doing our first beer cast.
Yeah.
We were doing the filming of it, so make sure you keep an eye out for that, guys.
Yeah, it'll get you wet. All right, so AJ, why don't you start us off?
Well, the first person who got me into comedy, if we're doing that, would be George Carlin. I loved the singular thing that he did with Hippy Dippy Weatherman, and then the 8 things or 7 things you couldn't say on TV at the time or on radio or whatever it was. Like I said, we've been drinking a little.
Joe's looking at a picture of one of our friends. I don't even want to tell you. I feel like a pervert. I'll just say that.
But if you're talking about the first special that got me into comedy, it's Eddie Murphy Delirious. When I saw him go,
motherfucker! I like it.
Yeah, he was just balls to the wall and just brought it. And he said things that George Carlin told me you couldn't say on TV.
Goony goo goo.
That was not one of the things he said. Well, it was. That was the one.
I thought I learned some new Spanish shit. Joe, what do you got?
For me, early on, it was the Bill Cosby. I think my mom had the best of tape, and she also had the Cheech and Chong record. So just listening to them and laughing at the funny way that they said things before I really knew what was going on the records was hilarious. But Bill Cosby, we've talked before about how amazing his storytelling is and how the jokes really got you. They're just like, I feel like his specials are like 5-6 good long stories that just have jokes peppered throughout.
Plus, who else can offer you a roofie and a pudding pop?
Yeah, we'll keep this going here, and we'll talk about some other shit too, maybe. Go ahead, Joey.
So what got me into comedy was definitely, I remember watching, and it's not my favorite comedian now, but what got me into comedy was Robin Williams, the Live on Broadway special. I remember watching that with my dad, and he has the joke about how golf was created in Scotland, and I just remember rolling on the floor laughing. It was hilarious.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say, so that's good. I want to. So producer Joe, he's got one of mine. Like one of my earliest stand-ups I remember was Bill Cosby himself, and I remember one of the bits in particular was how when he was growing up, he thought his name was Jesus Christ. He said because his father would just be yelling all the time, Jesus Christ, would you get over here? Jesus Christ, come here. And then he's like, my brother thought his name was Damn It. And so he'd be like, damn it, get over here. Damn it, come here. And then one day, he does something wrong and he yells at him. He goes, damn it. And he goes, no, Dad, it's me. I'm Jesus Christ. And just his delivery, his timing is so good. AJ talked about Eddie Murphy with Delirious, which was his first big comedy special. I actually saw it in reverse. I saw Raw first, which, he had the big purple jumpsuit on, and he's talking about how, people coming from other countries don't understand his bit, and they just hear the curse words, and they're like, come up to him like, Eddie Murphy, suck my dick.
The funny thing is Delirious was actually the first one that came out.
Yeah.
And I think most people actually saw Raw first and then went, oh, shit, what else has this guy done? And then they found his stuff on Delirious and his stuff on Saturday Night Live.
I can't guarantee or volunteer that that's how it happened, but for me, that is actually how it happened. I saw Raw, and then I want to check out Delirious. And then when he did the whole bit about your wife's a Bigfoot Gus and goony goo goo and give her, a personal rope, and then they want to be a cowboy, and your fat hairy bitch wife can't walk a flight of stairs, like gold.
The funny thing is, half the stuff that Eddie Murphy did back then, I'm not sure you could actually do now. Like he does the one about the gay police officer.
Oh yeah,
not needing a siren. Some of these jokes I could get him canceled, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
Although his career has been canceled for 20 years anyways.
I know he's doing good with like child films and stuff like that.
I think that he was talking about doing a comeback to stand up, but people were worried that would he still be funny, because obviously, like AJ said, you wouldn't be able to do the same bits.
Well, that held him back, not being able to do the same bits. Robin Williams was held back by suicide.
That would
Bill
fuck you up.
Cosby was
R.I.P.
held back
Bless.
Bill Cosby was held back by prison. So there's a lot of things that actually hold people back, unfortunately.
All right, I'm gonna ask a question to producer Joe here, because I know he was like checking out like pictures, like a little pervert that he is. I was wondering, what is one of your first favorite comedic films, though? Put you on the spot. Sorry.
Ooh, first favorite comedic films. That's interesting.
So many.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many, and especially coming from that 80s.
So just throw this out there. We just had, for the beer podcast, we had that extra cooler beer. Like Ghostbusters popping in my head right now.
Yeah, Ghostbusters would probably be an early one.
We also today, to give you a little bit behind the curtain, also we did an episode for the Comedycast where we talked about holiday films, and Chevy Chase comes to mind. Some of those comedy films he did in the 80s. I absolutely loved those Fletch movies when they came out. I thought they were great.
In that same vein, that my first thought was Spies Like Us with Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase.
Okay. And
Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and
Three
Dan
Amigos.
Aykroyd. Yeah, that was okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are going to be that early SNL, Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd movies, because we all come from the 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
Where we watched a lot
John
of movies.
Candy, Summer Rental.
Even though I don't know if it was a comedy, it was more like it had a kind of a buddy cop film, 48 Hours, Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy.
Oh, that was definitely still a comedy. I know there was drama, but still.
Roxanne!
To this day, I actually sing the song Only That Way.
That's the only way I know how to sing it.
And not just because that's all my voice
I don't know
has.
what Sting's doing, but fuck that motherfucker.
Now, guys, would you say that the comedy that you're into now is similar or opposite of what you maybe grew up liking?
All right, so I'll go first. I have to say personally, I don't know if it's like, it's not different. It might be more expounded. Like I have other things I like now too, but I still love that original like Eddie Murphy, Bill Cosby stuff.
Dave,
but also
Dave also likes white people now.
I also do like George Carlin. It's interesting too, because I went from a phase where I like Dane Cook stuff, and like the more like I've watched comedy, I'm like, man, why did I like that? Like he wasn't that funny. There's a few things I'll say like, oh, okay, that was good, but for the most part, I'm like, not so much.
So here's the thing about comedy. A lot of times comedy talks to you about what you're going through in the time period. So it can be funny to you in the time period and not necessarily funny to you 10 years later.
Dave's dick also felt like corn.
Yeah, I got a corny dick.
The funny thing is nobody's mentioned Richard Pryor thus far.
Yeah, who's a legend, but he's also a little bit before our prime. Like me and you are the oldest people here, and we were on the tail end of Richard Pryor.
The first thing I remember about Richard Pryor is catching himself on fire freebasing.
Yeah.
I feel like for a lot of us, Richard Pryor would kind of be when we dug more into comedy and we were discovering those other comedians out there.
So the way I found Richard Pryor the first time was actually Eddie Murphy talking about him in his skit.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about how Bill Cosby chastised him for swearing.
Yeah.
And how Richard Pryor asked him, "Are you making money?"
I like that. Yeah, you making money?
Tell Bill Cosby I said to have a Coke and a smile and
shut the fuck up. I have to say, too, I was just telling my girlfriend about this, too, as we noted on the episode. She's super, like, innocent and doesn't like a lot of stuff. I was telling her that, like, we're talking about her son, like poop jokes, and, like, that's all he knows. And Eddie has that bit, too, where he talks about how he did stand-up at, like, 14 years old, and all it was about him taking a shit, because that's all he had done at 14 years old. And he's like, but it sounded like Richard Pryor. And he's like, you ever be straining really hard, trying to take a shit, and this little pebble shit comes out? Don't I get you mad? Don't you want to look at your asshole and go, that's all you got for me, motherfucker?
So I think
not very funny to say that a bunch of fun of like 8 and 10-year-old kids, by the way, but whatever.
One of the funny things is we talked about Robin Williams before. Some of my early comedy memories is TV comedy and seeing
Mork and
Robin
Mindy?
Williams on Mork and Mindy. And it wasn't until later on that I realized that a lot of his phonetic energy that he had was fueled by cocaine.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
I think one of the worst things that happened to him was getting clean. I hate to say that, but
Yeah, it's interesting how that works.
It just affected his comedy greatly.
Yeah, kind of pulling us in another direction, but it's interesting like how there's a book, I think it's called like Barbells and Kamikazes, and it's basically a look at how the Russian Olympic weightlifting team one year was using like alcohol as in form of like an enhancement drug. So basically, if you use just enough of it, it could relax your nerves, and you'd be a little more relaxed when you do it. Like you're lifting weights. But if you go too far, obviously, and you can get really fucked up. And I think like in terms of creativeness, right? You could do a certain amount of drugs, and maybe you can have this little outlet, but then you can also go too far.
I'm just happy to find out what my mom was going for with all that drinking.
Yeah, she wanted to lift weights. She was trying to join the Russian lift. I had something to drink today, folks. I'm sorry.
If she wanted to lift weights, she could have stayed with my dad.
Oh yeah, Denny, HBK, baby, Heartbreak Kid. Love that guy.
Now, guys, we've talked about where we came from in comedy, what we like now. Do you guys search out a lot of new comedy, or do you just kind of watch what you like? And like, how do you discover new comics at this point in your life?
I have to say, honestly, too, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm curious. Do you rush to go see a lot of comedy movies at this stage in your life? Like, I can't think of any really great comedic movies that have been out in the last like 5 years or so.
I mean, I guess it's an action movie, but I did just see The Rock and Ryan Reynolds together. They do have good chemistry. They're funny together.
Okay.
But I don't go out of my way to go see something that's necessarily a comedy. That was more of an action, haha, comedy.
Go ahead, John.
I kind of rush to go see more stand-up now, people that I haven't seen or people that I'm a fan of. I don't think a lot of huge comedy movies come out like they did in the 80s and 90s.
So I'll ask you this, Chevy. What's the last like comedy movie that you like saw maybe in the theater?
I haven't been to the movie theater in like 3 years, maybe longer.
Do you remember the last comedy movie you
I
seen?
couldn't tell you what it was.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Elf.
Definitely not. I don't know. I mean, like, I remember going to the movies for a while and seeing stuff like Old School and like Talladega Nights and seeing a lot of those like Will Ferrell films. Like, that's what I did. But
they don't really do that anymore.
No, I can't think. Like, Seth Rogen had that little thing going for a little while, like Pineapple Express and a bunch of movies.
Yeah, until he did the movie where he couldn't show it anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I can't think of any, like, the last film I remember seeing in the theater as a comedy movie was that animation film kind of where it was Seth Rogen. They were like in a grocery store and it was like R-rated.
Sausage Party.
Sausage Party. I was gonna say all the sauces were fucking each other.
That was in a movie theater?
I saw it in a movie theater.
How many kids were there?
I think there were a couple, honestly, which I don't know if like parents knew, but I'm like, oh, they fucked up.
Dave screamed down the middle of the theater, "Best sausage party ever!"
I think I might have been my ex-wife at the time. Yeah, so we had fun.
Who, by the way, was also the age of the children.
She was a little older. She was legal.
Anyway, going back to producer Joe's question about how we find our comedians now, I'm gonna say podcasts are probably how I find out about my new comedians that I follow. They'll be on a podcast I watch, and then I go and follow them.
So I have this neat little trick. I go to this thing called YouTube, and I punch in stand-up comedy.
There's some guy named Sam something. He did like a stand-up on a rooftop.
Is it Sam Tripoli?
Yeah, that's it. He did have a stand-up.
He's a conspiracy theorist.
I think so.
He has a tinfoil hat podcast with Eddie Bravo.
I'm not positive about this now. Now I'm losing.
Tower 7.
Dave, do you have any information at all about this?
I will look it up as we speak.
He has a podcast with Brian Callen also called Conspiracy Social Club. My wife is a big fan.
I do still like to go see stand-up, by the way. I've gone and seen Brian Regan lately. There's some fun ones out there still, guys.
Okay. I've never seen a stand-up show live, so maybe we should go as a Working Fans podcast group.
I think the next time I perform, we'll have to bring Chevy with us.
Sounds good.
Sam Morrell is the guy I was thinking, actually.
That's not who I was thinking.
No, he did some comedy on the rooftop. This is what the guy looks like.
I've definitely heard of Sam Tripoli, though. He is a good comedian.
I knew who Sam Tripoli was. I have
Sam
no idea who
Morrell
Sam
was
Morrell
actually recommended to me by a mutual friend, and he's very funny. I would actually check him out. Yeah, you know what's funny? The last stand-up special that I meant to actually saw, like, as far as like heavy hitters go, DL Hughley, I think. And I remember like he had this bit about
What year was this? 2012.
you know what? It was a little later, but you're not far off. I want to say oh shit. No, it wasn't. It was actually before 2012. Oh no.
Nailed it.
I'm old.
Dave, didn't you come with me to see Jim Jeffries?
Yeah, that might have been after DL Hughley. I don't remember when. I don't remember. Those were all around the same time period, though. Yeah, but I remember
Jim Jeffries is funny as shit if you get a chance.
DL Hughley had this bit about like teaching kids how to swear to avoid them from getting kidnapped. And he's like, imagine you're at a mall or something, and some 6-year-old's like, I don't know this motherfucker. He's like, you gonna turn around,
So, as a public service announcement, I want you guys to do me a favor. If you go to a comedy show and it hurts your feelings and you're sensitive, go somewhere else.
Yeah, because that's one thing that's actually hurting a lot of modern comedy is the overly political correctness and the sense of cancel culture that's going on now. Not a lot of people want to go out or feel comfortable, it seems, going out and performing comedy where they used to at the threat of having their whole life shut down over it.
Pete Davidson and a few other comics have actually stopped doing college tours because the colleges are so freaking liberal and counter cancel culture now that he's afraid that it'll literally ruin his whole career. That's a damn shame.
I'm trying to think of like stand-up specials I've seen recently. Dave Chappelle.
Did you see Pete Davidson's?
Not recently.
So he did one, and bless you, he jokes around, even to be honest with you, about his father who passed away in 9/11. When you can make that joke and you've survived, you are a member of a family that has survived from that, and you can joke about it, and somebody else looks at it and goes, "Oh, how dare you do that?" That person's wrong. And so you have a right to make humorous jokes.
Yeah. I was going to say,
Former guest of the show, Mike Lawrence, actually helped write some of Pete Davidson's recent Weekend Update sketches.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like other stand-up specials I've seen. I'm still a little fixated. It's like Bill Burr is another one of the great comics. Still putting out shit.
He might be the best for me right now at this point.
Yeah, I love me some Bill Burr. Dave Chappelle when he puts stuff out, but he's not as frequent, I would say. But when he puts it out, it's pretty good. Chris Rock put something out again, like in the last year or two. I wouldn't compare it to like his original stuff. It was okay, but definitely not as
If
good.
you want to see somebody who's up and coming, he was on our show. Dame FK, believe it or not, I've been on shows with him. Absolutely hilarious young comedian. Busts his ass out there, gets out to every show that he can, and he puts the work in, and he's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, that's one great thing we've had about having a comedy podcast is we've become friendly with comics like him, Marcelino Moose Hill, Pat Oates. And getting to see some of those comics that aren't big names. I think that's one of my more kind of like modern excitement in comedy is finding those newer names that wouldn't be household, but that you turn out to become a fan of.
Yeah, I think I'd like to still potentially put on a comedy show with you guys, maybe promote something and see how that goes.
I think that's a great idea. I would love to book that. That's something that we can definitely get done.
Joe, do we know any comedians?
No.
We'll find them. They're on Facebook.
Find somebody. Yeah, I can't think of. Obviously Dame, but nobody like close enough to us. I think. Yeah. I want to find somebody.
I know Moose Hill's always available.
Moose Hill, love Mussolini. Good dude.
Marcelino.
Yeah, sausage. I like that guy.
Now, guys, this is kind of a post-holiday episode where Thanksgiving just passed us. We're moving into December. We've got a lot of great episodes coming up for you. And we just wanted to get together once again as a group and kind of have a short comedy discussion about the things we enjoy. And that's the kind of stuff we will continue to share with you here on the Working Fans Comedycast.
Dave likes a lot of leather.
And on that note, anyone else got anyone want to add? All right.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
I hope you had a happy holiday and that you were able to shop on Black Friday.
Enjoy it, you filthy animals. Later.